What's up, boys and girls, and welcome to our weekly NFL breakdown here at Clubhouse TV, brought to you by sportsbet.io, where we go over every primetime game from a betting perspective every single Wednesday during the season. We record this on Tuesday, but it usually goes out on Wednesday. So we'll say on Wednesday every week. My name is Chris Farley, two-time Circa contest winner. I can say that now, and professional bettor for the last 5 years. You can follow me at Farley Bets on X. And I am joined, as always, by one of the most respected NFL bettors in this gambling industry, Lou Finicaro. You can follow him at Gamblu on X or check out his other sports investment pursuits at gamblu.com. Lou, I hit my free pick on the show last week, which was Packers plus 3.5, so I was happy about that. Hit a few others, but it was a down week for me overall, minus 5 units. I was plus 45 units overall since week 7, so I've been on a pretty good run. But I almost feels somewhat inevitable, right? Especially after the contest win, maybe just a little bit of a trip up, a little bit of a lapse in focus. I'm not sure, right? As I always say, Lou, as much as we need to know about these teams and the sport, obviously, and we handicap every week, it's as much about your own decision making and your own self awareness. And I hope to get right back at it this week as we head towards the final stretch of the season. How was your week 14?
Well, first of all, it's good to see you. Happy to be here speaking. The week went really good for me. I decided because I've been really very warm the last 5 or 6 weeks, and I thought maybe this would be a good week to pull back. And was 2-0 going into Monday night. Monday night we hit a middle on the total. So 4-0 and better than 4 units of wager, because many of the wagers I make return higher than the amount initially invested. Really good week. My first 6 weeks were putrid. I was down maybe 7 units, and now I'm up about 7 units, which means there's been a 14-unit swing. We're very high amount, low unit people here. And so I'm tickled. My clients are very pleased. I don't earn until they recoup a certain amount plus what they pay me. So I guarantee my work. And if after 4 weeks they haven't earned the correct amount, I don't get anything. So there's motivation for everyone to perform at Gamblu, and so far so good. I'm seeing the ball well, but that's yesterday, and yesterday does nothing for us today. So we need to look forward, and it's a new week. We have 17, 18 of them in the NFL, plus a few weeks of playoffs, and we're getting down to the crunch there, Chris.
Yep, we got 4 games to go over today. Of course, if you're interested in any more of all of Lou's NFL picks, you can check him out at gamblu.com. He's got the offering over there for that. And I love that client promise that you have, Lou. I do want to ask you something, because I got burned last week on 2 teams that I thought would really show up. I got more to say about the Minnesota Vikings, but the Falcons, they were hanging in that game for 3 quarters. 21-point fourth quarter for the Vikings. Things just kind of got out of hand in that one. Falcons don't cover, and then Arizona at home, just they came out looking great, 7-0, and then 2 turnovers by Kyler Murray. Pressure and motivation are 2 areas of the NFL that I think are similar to the military. I was in the military right out of high school, and I was very nervous when I was first in the military. I don't know how well I handled it, and then I learned. I grew, I progressed, and I gained more of that calmness. But it just seems like some teams at this time of the year, or some players, right, coaches and quarterbacks especially, thrive in these high pressure, chaotic, must win now type of situations, while others tend to foil. Is that something, especially at this time of the year, Lou? December, we're getting to the playoffs. Is there some kind of way that you measure that, or look at how quarterbacks and coaches and teams in general handle pressure?
Well, I'm gonna answer with a lot of different words in a different way, and I think I'm going to be answering your question. And that is, you got to learn how to win. I don't care if you're a fighter or a football team, but it isn't the rookie shows up, dominates, wins Rookie of the Year, and rides off into the sunset. Last year's Rookie of the Year did, but what's happening this year? Reality's hitting. And so the few that get that experience, that's great. The most got to toil and struggle and earn, and it's a process. Learning is, and the Cardinals were ripe in that spot. The one straight side bet I had last week was Seattle. So that was, kudos to me, I guess. But to me, that was somewhat predictable. But Seattle is a young team with a new head coach.
Right.
They're learning to win as well. I just think that along the path of winning, Seattle's got a little bit more maturity on their team, but Arizona's going to be fine as well. And I think that maybe helps explain it. But at this time of year, Chris, I'm looking only to really invest or make a wager on playoff kind of games. So, the old games that make you puke when you stand by the water cooler, I'm not even looking at games like that. Jacksonville and the Jets, that's just a pass over to me. I can't judge motivations. I don't know what's going on in the clubhouses. Yeah, the eye in the sky don't lie, and these kids are all playing for their jobs. But, you don't know. It's harder to handicap. But if I get a game like LA Rams and San Francisco Thursday night with both teams in a division where they still have a chance to win. Now, this is a playoff kind of game that I should be handicapping. I may not bet it, but I'm surely handicapping it.
Yeah, well, this is definitely a playoff-like atmosphere on Thursday Night Football, so that's a great segue. And we saw a difference in maturity last week between the San Francisco 49ers and the Chicago Bears. I know some good sharp bettors like the Bears in that spot, but the Bears, obviously a younger team, just fired their head coach. San Francisco went in there and pummeled them. Can San Francisco do that again? This line is at -2.5 at most sports books that I'm looking at. It opened up at 3. Now, I say open up at 3. I'm talking about a week ago from what I'm seeing. Maybe you have something different, Lou. But, in the before the season, I'm not sure where this line was. But right now it sits at -2.5 in favor of the 49ers. They're at home on a short week. Of course, the 49ers have owned this series. This year, the Rams beat the 49ers. But before this season, the 49ers had, dating back to mid-October 2019, 9 straight regular season victories against these Rams. Now they're at home. They finally got off the schneid last week. They could have some guys coming back. We got maybe Nick Bosa, maybe Dre Greenlaw, maybe Trent Williams. We don't know enough about that yet. But because we don't, I think we're getting a kind spread here, just -2.5 on the home team. I know some really sharp guys that I trust already really like the 49ers and think they could blow out the Rams. Of course, the Rams coming off a nice victory themselves, defeating the Bills. Excuse me, this is not the NBA. What do you got in this one, Lou? 49ers and Rams, classic NFC West battle.
Yeah, you have division rivalry. These teams know each other from when I was a kid, for crying out loud, and so that you got that hatred. You can almost throw everything out on the record books. I do like the fact it's gone from 3 to 2.5. It's done so on the Rams' impressive win over the Bills, which was last Sunday. Now they turn around on a short week, go to division rival San Francisco in what appears to me to be a great under game. LA's 11th ranked rushing offense is going to try and rush the ball on the only blemish that the San Fran really has, outside of the fact they're zombies because they haven't had any rest in 2 years, and they're injured up the wazoo. Their 20th ranked defense against the run is what LA is going to target here. And so I think that you got a ball control game, a lower scoring game. But I do lean to San Francisco. Why? Because I think the spot is tough for LA to try and remake or rekindle the same energy that they just brought to Buffalo into San Francisco, even though it's a division game.
Yeah, as of now, not an official play yet for me, but I might do the old take San Francisco -2.5 and then tease up the Rams to +8.5 with another friendly leg of a teaser. I mean, I think this is a 3 to 7 point game. Obviously, you get over those key numbers, but I do think that you can possibly invest on both sides of this, especially now. I mean, we could get some of these guys coming back, Lou. I mean, we might see Nick Bosa back. We might see Trent Williams back. Those are pretty significant upgrades, especially from a leadership perspective on both ends of their offensive and defensive line. So If we see that, I think we could see a 3 later in the week too. I don't think this line goes down anymore. So I'd want to take San Francisco sooner than later. I'm also probably going to look to pair that. The Rams are playing really good football right now, Lou, and it feels like that connection between Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua, who is really starting to look like one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. That's a special connection in addition already to Cooper Kupp, right? I mean, so the Rams could probably hang in this game for sure, but I think this is probably San Francisco's side to look at. At least that's what I got. I do want to mention too, the total feels a little too high for me, Lou. I'm seeing 48.5. Obviously,
Yeah.
both offenses did well last week, but like you mentioned, Rams probably going to try to run the ball, and you got to expect some regression after all that offense last week.
And the 22nd ranked Ram defense. I mean, as good as that offense is, San Francisco's got a stout D, and they played good last week. Now, they have the ability to be very erratic, and it's a Thursday night game. I get it. You also look at special teams here, both terrible. 31st, San Francisco 26th for the Rams. It should be an interesting game, but I think that this is I lean to San Fran. I guess I'll say it as simply as that.
Okay, let's move on to the Sunday night football game. The Green Bay Packers off of great performance. They lost against the Lions on Thursday night, but I came away even more impressed by the Packers. And again, just because they hung around, right? They almost got past the Lions, which is a really tough team to beat, even in the same division at Detroit. So they hung around in that one. Now they go on extended rest up to Seattle, which is not an easy 2-game road spot there, but at least they get extended rest. Seattle looking good against Arizona. Pretty clean win there after those early 2 turnovers where they controlled the game. But Seattle is getting 3 points at home. This was 2.5. Now it's up to 3. I was looking at Seattle as a possible teaser leg up to 8.5. But now that it's at 3, Lou, I think there might be some value on these Seahawks who are playing well. They have a great home field advantage. I really like the Packers too. These are 2 feisty teams. But if you're giving me 3 on the home team, the handicapper in me wants to take Seattle. What do you see here, Lou?
I'm going to agree with everything. 39% of the bets and 71% of the money on Seattle. That's enough to push me to take them, especially since that number is now 3. You may have to pay $115 to get it, but I'd scoop it up like a fumble in the Super Bowl. I think that, again, I talk about tough spots because I look at schedules, where they were, what they're doing. Yeah, one take is Green Bay looked really impressive against Detroit. The other take is Detroit played great. They had third stringers in the whole game, still won the game against Green Bay. I don't have Green Bay ranked as high as many, and I made this game Seattle won, not Green Bay won, to be quite at Green Bay 2.5. In the look ahead, I'm sitting on Seattle -1 at home. Plus, I give them a full 2.5 points, maybe 3 at home, even though it's not going to be windy. That crowd is good. And so, tough spot for Green Bay. I like Seattle here. They're playing for the division title. And Green Bay off of Detroit, I think, is an emotional sigh, and it's going to be hard for them to get up. Again, I'm going to take the home team in the 3, and I'll make that my release.
Yeah, a lot of playoff implications in this game. Seattle's in first place in the NFC West right now, and they obviously want to hang on to it. All the NFC West teams have pretty difficult remaining schedules, in division games and other tough opponents. It's going to be interesting to see how that division pans out. Should be a good game. Their total's at 46, too. I think we might see a lower scoring one there as well. Not seeing a lot of weather implications again this week, Lou, which is kind of disappointing. I want that in December. I want some good weather games, but not looking like that, but looks like we're both in the same thinking as far as that game goes. Let's go to the first of 2 Monday Night Football games. The NFL loves to crowd these primetime games. One is more interesting than the other, at least from my perspective, and that's the first one. Chicago Bears traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. The Vikings are now 7-point favorites in this game. Obviously, Chicago coming off a really regrettable performance against the 49ers. Didn't really show up until the second half. Lou, the 49ers outgained the Bears 308 to 4 in total yards at the end of that first half. That's about as dominant as you can get in first half of football. So I expect the Bears to at least come out hungrier and better in this game. And Minnesota, now I might be a little biased because I didn't like the way that game ended last week. I lost that bet on the Falcons. But if you watch that game between Minnesota and Atlanta, I have Atlanta as a very average team. A lot of people were really supporting Atlanta all season. Very average to me. They hung around with the Vikings at Minnesota until the third quarter. That was an even game. The Falcons outgained the Vikings. They got more first down than the Vikings, but the Falcons turned it over 3 times, and they had 12 penalties for over 130, 40 yards, something like that, or over 120. It was a ton of penalties. So Minnesota got the advantage of the Falcons shooting themselves in the foot over and over in that one. I am waiting to fade the Minnesota Vikings, Lou. I don't love that it's against the Bears. That's not a team that I trust that much, but 7 points is a ton of points in the division where we've seen the Bears compete really hard before. So I am convincing myself, not there yet, but I don't know why I wouldn't take Chicago in this spot. What say you?
We know who the good teams are. We know who the bad teams are. Chicago has strife up to their eyebrows. It begins in their ownership. It goes through the front office. It is almost like the Lord. It is and always is going to be as long as these McCaskies own this team. The Bears are done. And at 7's a small price to pay on Minnesota. I would tease it down. I'm all about Minnesota, the most disrespected 10-2 team you're ever going to find. Yeah, did they lay a clunker? They sure did, but they still beat Atlanta, supposed to be good, and they did it. And what do you look at? You just put a W on the schedule and you go to the next game. They don't put pictures on the scorecard. This is a Minnesota mashed potato. Chicago's done.
I like it.
I'm
So
not, and I won't look or bet at a game like this because I can only judge the motivation of one team. Who knows that Chicago doesn't start looking at second string D linemen and stuff and start evaluating next year already? That is a dumpster fire franchise.
yeah, and it didn't seem to get any better without Matt Eberflus this past Sunday, that's for sure. So Lou says, Chris, you want to fade the Vikings? Maybe just wait a little bit longer to fade the Vikings, which I appreciate that because
I'm fading them right to the division title because I was hoping Green Bay could do Detroit last week and Minnesota would be right there. Now I got to actually earn it, but I do have some Minnesota money in that division.
Yeah, and they're feisty on both sides of the ball, that's for sure. And Kevin
That's
O'Connell,
the easiest coaching job in the history of coach. I shouldn't say that. It's the easiest coaching job this year to go into your 10-2 team and explain to them how nobody believes in them except this room. That's a dangerous team come playoffs times. I'm just saying.
yeah, I mean, I agree, and there's no doubt that Kevin O'Connell has exceptional effect on these quarterbacks and on these players. I mean, you listen to him in the locker room, even there's real buy-in there. Sam Darnold has real belief in him. I mean, hell, they might be able to roll out Daniel Jones if they need it, and Daniel Jones looks different for these Vikings. So definitely a dangerous team. Lou says, Chris, hold back on fading the Vikings. I might just have to listen to Lou on that one. I'm telling you that I want to look for the spot. Personally, I don't see a top team there in the Vikings. I see a very good team. That's all I'm saying, Lou.
Well, we'll see as time goes on because what you're saying is fade the Vikings, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is this ain't the team going to do the Vikings.
Yeah. This ain't the way to do it. Okay, and the final game, because we got 2 on Monday night. One is at 8 o'clock and one is at 8:30. So hopefully you got 2 TVs in the same room or a laptop and a TV.
What's the
like
NFL?
That.
Baseball now? They're going to
Right.
spit all over themselves, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and they'll still get a ton of viewers in both games, Lord knows. But the Atlanta Falcons off that loss go to Las Vegas, who is also off a loss, and Las Vegas is going to roll out Desmond Ridder, who played for the Atlanta Falcons last year. Raiders are at home. This feels again like another Antonio Pierce spot to get the boys all motivated, get Desmond Ridder motivated to play well, and he did look okay in limited action earlier this season with the Raiders. But man, Atlanta at some point, they're obviously still fighting for their position. They could still win the NFC South even after all these mistakes with 3 losses in a row. Kirk Cousins playing terribly in a lot of these spots, but he did look better, except for one really bad interception. He did make some great throws and looked okay last week. 4.5, Lou. The Falcons are getting 4.5 point favorites here. I can't bet the Falcons, but I don't think I can bet the Raiders either with Desmond Ritter. I mean, if Desmond Ritter was a quarterback that I trusted to have like a revenge game, maybe I'm betting the Raiders, but I don't think I can do either side here, Lou. This kind of falls into that category for me of a game not to touch. What do you say?
Yeah, because it's not really in my radar. It doesn't qualify as playoff teams. Surely we have motivation on Atlanta's part, and I think that's what we have to talk about because all they have to do is tie the division against the Bucks to win. They've beaten them twice. I know that because I have Bucks futures to win the division plus 320, and I'm watching that division very closely. After two dynamic bumbles, one at home against the Chargers, then one on the road against Minnesota. This is finally a team that doesn't look like those two teams. Vegas isn't Minnesota, and they surely aren't the Chargers. And so this could be a good spot for Atlanta because Atlanta's D is terrible. But the good news is it's better than the 29th ranked Vegas offense, which is putrid. And so putrid is the Vegas offense that it's out putrided, if that's a word, by the Vegas defense. The only squad of the four here is the Atlanta offense that can gel, and they should be PO'd. They got strong receivers, great running game. This would be the time to take Atlanta. If you couldn't stomach the 3.5 or 4, that's so much. Really, it makes it hard to take. That's why you kind of got to take it because it isn't enough for Vegas. Vegas needs a touchdown at least, even though they're at home, in my opinion. Again, not a game I'm even interested in, but it would be Atlanta or pass for me.
Yeah, same here. Not a game I'm interested in, but for what it's worth, too, as much as the Desmond Ritter angle, revenge angle, whatever, might matter to some people, I see it a little bit differently. This is an Atlanta Falcons defense that knows Desmond Ritter, that knows his limitations. And for what it's worth, the Falcons defense, they were getting some sacks in that game against the Vikings. They were playing hard. They were playing better than they have in the past. And then the floodgates broke open, later in that game, and they looked terrible. But if they come out playing the same way that they did in the first half last week, then they should be able to control this game. So lean Falcons, lean under 44.5 for me in that one too, because I think this is probably a pretty ugly game. But nothing for me on that one. So Lou, I think for my official play for the show, I'm just going to say 49ers minus 2.5. These Thursday night games have been treating me well. They're at home. San Francisco knows how to function in these situations, and I think they at least get one or two of those guys back. So that's my official play. Did you already mention an official play for the show, or do you have another one?
I'm going to make it Seattle plus the 3 at home. And the only comment I would make, I love your idea if you're talking back to the Thursday night game and taking San Francisco minus the 2.5 and then thinking about coming back, if you can get to 7 or a better number even yet. I might suggest that if that's really your strategy, why play 2.5? Use San Francisco on a money line or put them as the first leg of a money line parlay. We had a money line parlay last week that we went from 2.5 to 4.5 on one team and from 5 to 4 to 7 on the Rams and parlayed those two together and got a plus 1350 kind of thing. So don't be afraid to use the menus on these DraftKings and such. But if I had arbitrage on my mind in that game, I'd be using San Fran on the money line, just me.
Yeah, I like it. For the show, I'll give out 2.5, but great idea. I don't use the money line enough, if I'm being honest, Lou. So,
and here's another one. Here's one they're going to tell you never do. And you know what? When they say never, I use the Springsteen adage. When they said sit down, I stood up. That game is 2.5. What if you take the 2.5 and now I tease San Fran and I'm getting 3?
Yeah.
I'm going to go from 2.5 to now I'm getting 3 and going to get that 15.6% advantage of games landing on 3. I got the favored team at home plus 3. They're going to, oh, you never do that. Good. You never do it because I'm going to do it. I've been doing it and it works really well.
Yeah. And you're getting the home team and you would get over 3, right? You get 3.5, right? So you would get over that key number.
Excuse me. So you're going 2.5 to 3.5 and you're getting that half. That's right. Yeah. Excuse me. I didn't take my socks off to count those numbers there.
Well, no, right. Because, and that's important, but just because in two team teasers, right? If you land on the number that's a loss, right? So you want those half
At a
points.
bad shop, you gotta
Yeah.
yeah. But if they're dishing a minus 110 on 6 point teasers, then they're probably taking the push, and then you got to know you're really playing a 5.5 point teaser, so you can't do the game with 2.5. You'd have to use the 3.5 point tease, but to go
Yeah.
from a 2.5 favorite to a plus 3.5 underdog at home is a strong tool I use all the time. Everybody can laugh at me as they wish as I go carry a Santa Claus duffel bag to the bank.
Well, you can't say we don't give you a lot of options here on the show. We're money lining, we're teasing, we're taking bets straight up, we're taking totals. Lou's got Seattle +3. I'm taking San Francisco -2.5. But as you heard from us, there's other variations you can have in that game. We'll be with you here every single week, like we always are, going over these NFL primetime games until the end of the season and probably through the playoffs too. So we look forward to being with you here again next week for Week 16. Again, check out Lou Finicaro at Gamblu on X and Gamblu.com. Check me out at Farley Bets on X. Until next week, good luck with your bets. Use caution, everybody, and we'll see you here next week on the same show. See you later.